Morning everybody. So the postman's been, and exciting news is I finally joined the party and got a new toy. So this is the Zhiyun Weebill S gimbal. Let's have a look. So not even got the wrapping off yet. So why have I bought a Weebill S? And yes, I know I'm a bit late to the party. I've been using the Weebill Lab for best part of 18 months now. I didn't get it just on release, I think it was just after, because I thought the Crane 2 was too heavy, although I really regret selling that gimbal because it was so smooth, like ridiculous. That Crane 2 is my favourite gimbal, but it was very inconvenient to pack, and like, oh, it just made a very awkward shape in my bag. I just got really annoyed with it, and it made an absolutely horrible noise. I know this isn't a reason to kind of not buy something, but it made a really horrible noise when you took the battery compartment apart, which I needed to do in the middle of a wedding a few times, and it was so embarrassing that I thought, I can't do this. And the Weebill Lab had a better battery compartment. So yeah, that's one thing. This is really well wrapped up. I'm not gonna do that. Right, okay, here we are. So I think the box is actually a little bit smaller than the Weebill Lab one was. Sorry, I'm rustling about here, you probably can't hear me. Right, okay, so here we go. Not seeing this in person, you're seeing it before I'm seeing it. So typically nice packaging from Zhiyun. I have come to expect great things from their packaging, and they are really a top-notch producer now. Like, absolutely great. I've had Zhiyun gimbals right from the Crane, the original Crane. We didn't have the V1. We got the Crane 1 V2, which was still like the really skinny metal-handled job that used those big fat batteries. And yeah, ever since then they've just gone up and up and up and up and up in quality, and yeah, such a nice experience. So let's get into it and have a look at the Weebill S, because I'm super excited for this. So break that seal, there we go, it's not new anymore. Oh, sorry, I'm rubbish at undoing boxes. Right, so inside the top flap we've got a nice piece of card there, Zhiyun branded. That's probably blown out, isn't it? And then yep, empty box. Put that card to the side. You can see that. Right, so it's wrapped in this plastic bag. We're going to take that off next. There's no graceful way to do this. I'm just going to have to chop it with this pair of scissors. At least you'll know, if you get one, if it's been a customer return or not, because there's a lot of packaging on here and there's a lot of care and attention gone into it. I can't say I'm a fan of the use of single-use plastics in this, but you know, can't really control that. Here we go. So first out is a little packet envelope thing, which has service card and quick start guide. I've had loads of Zhiyun gimbals before, but I will keep that out just so I don't mess anything up, because there's probably something very different about this. And oh, there is a Weebill S accessories list in English and Chinese. So there we go. It lists all the accessories you can buy for the Weebill S, including, well, we'll go through that in a bit once we've seen the actual thing. So I think it'll be interesting to see what accessories you can get, because on the first ones I'm used to like very simple operation on these, where all you get is the gimbal, some batteries and a couple of mounting options and cables, but it'd be great to see what kind of more complicated system we can build for more complicated shoots. So let's get rid of this plastic bag, put that in the original box, And here we go. Right, so in terms of the packaging, like you used to get like a hard like carry case for the gimbal, and it looks like it's just been replaced by a bit of a weird box with cutout stuff. I know this is a lot cheaper than the Weebill Lab was when I bought it. I think I paid £269 for this. I think I paid £450 for the Weebill Lab. And one of the ways they've cut costs is, yeah, you've got this really nice foam case with the Weebill Lab. I'll go and get it. Here it is. Yeah, the Weebill Lab, you got this really nice like case, and you can actually carry that about. It's got clips on the sides, and I hope I've not got this upside down. I did have it upside down. Yeah, Zhiyun branded, and there you go. Everything fits in it really nicely. All your accessories, gimbal, batteries, charger, cables, everything, and it looks great. And in comparison, this looks weird, and it's got holes in it, and I wouldn't really be happy carrying it around in that, so that's a bit disappointing. But I'd rather, yeah, to be honest, I never carried the Weebill Lab around in that case, so I am happy not to pay for a case I'm not going to use. So, moot point, but might be important to you, not important to me. Right. And, classic rookie error, open it upside down. Here we go, take the lid off. So, that is a very nice kind of form-fitting array there. Everything fits in really nicely, and it looks really nice. I was a bit kind of worried about the tartiness of the silver and red paint going on, but I think I like it. The rest of it seems really good quality. First impressions seem to be, it has a slightly nicer finish. It seems it is all plastic still, I think, but the arms are actually thicker, the motors look bigger. There looks to be more clearance between everything, so hopefully I can get a slightly bigger lens on my camera on this thing. Batteries look the same. There's now a black charger instead of the white charger that came with the Weebill S and all my previous Zhiyun gimbals, so black chargers, don't know. There's the spacer plate if you've got a thicker lens and a small body, like if you've got a 24GM on an A7 body and it sticks out below the bottom of the camera, then you can use this spacer plate to add that back in, so that is good. There is the quick release plate that we used to, the two-stage quick release. It seems a very slightly different design, but yeah, not too different. I think it's a simpler design, which is always good. There's the lens support there, which I never use because I don't use lenses that big, so I usually take that off. But yeah, the two-stage quick release with the thumb screw is still the same as the Weebill Lab. So you attach this bit to the camera, and then this bit generally stays on the gimbal, and then when you want to put your camera on it, you just clip it on. That way you can leave your gimbal balanced to the lens that you know you're going to use first on the gimbal, which for me is either the 35 1.8 or the 55 1.8 on the Sony, and then you're ready to go in seconds. You just have to check the balance rather than having to balance everything up again like I did on the Crane 2. That is far better. So I really like that they kept that design. It seems slightly lighter weight maybe and a simpler design. I will take this lens support off. Getting to the actual, before we get to the gimbal itself, yep, again, you get these tripods. It folds out and it lets you put your gimbal down and use it as a desktop kind of remote controllable thing on a tripod, but it also acts as a handle, so it's a second hand grip for when you're in normal mode, and it's a hand grip for when you're in underslung mode, which we'll go through. On the Weebill Lab, these actually came really loose, and it flaps around all over the place and gets really annoying, so I hope they've actually changed the design slightly on this, because that was dead annoying, and it's one thing I didn't like about the Weebill Lab, is that this thing came loose like literally all the time. So batteries are the 18650 batteries, same as since the Crane 2. So Crane 2, Crane 3, Weebill Lab, and now the Weebill S all have these 18650 batteries. They're relatively hard to get extra sets. I do want an extra set because sometimes I burn through like a full set of gimbal batteries. If we're at a big wedding venue and I want to get loads and loads of moving content through the venue and hyperlapses and everything, I seem to kind of run my batteries out by the time it comes to like the wedding breakfast time. And then I have to charge them, which means bringing a charger with me, which means finding an outlet to be able to charge stuff, or bringing a USB battery, and just having that extra set of batteries just in the bag would make things a lot easier. So I think I'm going to try and invest in a spare set of batteries. Generally you get about 6 to 8 hours shooting on the Weebill Lab. They're bigger motors in the Weebill S, and I think if you're using a bigger lens with a bigger payload or a heavier camera, then it's going to burn through the batteries faster. So I would probably say either keep your charger on hand or get an extra set of those 18650 batteries. But for anyone wondering, if you buy the 18650 batteries, which are made for like the vaping things, they do not work. You have to buy the official Zhiyun ones. They're the only ones that work. I've tried to buy different brands of batteries. They just don't do anything. It doesn't turn on. So that's really frustrating that you can't buy cheaper batteries, but get the real ones. They're not, I think they're like $20 US for a pair. Yeah, it's worth the investment if you're going to do a lot of shooting on them. So onto the actual gimbal itself. Now this looks like a better proposition than, sorry, that's an awful noise, the original Weebill Lab. It's just a little bit more refined in design. We have nice kind of rosetted logos back there. They've lost the rubberiness on the mounting plate down here. They've still got the holes for the locking up here on the underslung mode, rosette, whatever you call it. Now the other differences, on the Weebill Lab, all you have, and traditionally on the Zhiyun gimbals have had, all you've had is like simple thumb screws to be able to kind of adjust stuff, and it takes a few turns and they ratchet round, and they're a little bit of a pain. They are a good system, but they're not a perfect system. And on the Weebill S, they've changed that to these flippy lever locks, so you can instantly, like one of the things about the Weebill Lab is you can't kind of variably friction it. It's either on or it's off, and if you unfriction it, you can't move it like a tiny bit. I always move it too much and then I have to move it back, and doing these micro adjustments is very difficult, whereas just touching this very slightly, it feels like I can like very finally adjust without losing the position once the screw's tightened up. Because you know when you tighten a screw up, it moves whatever you're tightening a tiny bit either way. These don't seem to do that. It'll be interesting to see once it's set up as to how much better they are. There's quick release safety button on the side there, so the plate doesn't fall off if you accidentally unfriction it. Another difference, the locks are different. Like on the Weebill Lab, they're kind of pointer, kind of flippy locks, and they get knocked so easily, and they come either undone or locked, like when you don't want them to. Like sometimes I've been in the middle of a shoot and I've accidentally knocked it and a lock's gone on and I've axis locked, and I've had a really good shot that's taken me ages to set up, well, I've only got one opportunity to do, and my shot's ruined because I've locked one of the axes, and I then can't move out of that, and it wasn't quite as good as I'd anticipated. So yeah, I'm really glad they've changed the transport locks on the Weebill S to account for that, because that was a design flaw. Now apparently, I want to see if this is true, they've increased the space between your knuckles and the back motor here, and yes, they have. They've actually done that by tilting the handle further back rather than changing the position or making this part longer with the battery compartment. They've actually tilted the angle of the screw backwards. Yeah, look at that. I've not got tiny hands, so it was all, yeah, my knuckles rubbed against that back motor on the Weebill Lab, but now I've got space there to be able to maneuver stuff, and that's going to be so much comfier, because that's how I use it in kind of chest height mode, like most of the time. That's really, really good. The cradle that the camera sits on is actually bigger now as well. One of the complaints with the Weebill Lab was that it wasn't big enough to accommodate bigger size lenses, and now that seems to have been addressed. Sorry, I've got that upside down. So now we've got loads and loads of space in between this axis here and the back plate here, because what had happened is if you're using like even a reasonably sized lens, in order to balance it you'd have to push the camera towards this motor, which means you couldn't flip the screen out, which means you couldn't really see what you were doing, and it also meant that the eyepiece on the camera caught on this motor, so you'd have to take that off, and then you'd have to go to a real lot of effort to use kind of a reasonably sized lens. Even like the Batis 25 I struggled with. So being able to balance a proper lens on here and have the flexibility to use any of the lenses in our arsenal on this, like massive advantage to me. I'm not sure if we're going to use the 24-105 on here, but I'm going to test it and see if it works, because it would be good to have that as an option to do like venue content shots, to go between like 24, 35 and 50 really quickly without having to change lenses and rebalance. If I'm shooting on my own, I haven't got that much time and I need to get a lot of content in a short space of time. So what else have we got? The actual fit and finish, there's no clunking, there's no scraping. It's absolutely silent, it's absolutely rock solid build quality. It does feel slightly heavier to me. Yeah, definitely is very slightly heavier than the Weebill Lab. I don't know if that'll follow through with the spec. I'll have to check and see if the weight is actually the same. But because the arms are more reinforced, because the motors are bigger, because they are so much stronger on this, they're meant to handle like the 16 to 35 GM, 2470 GM on the Sony. Sorry, every non-Sony person who watches my channel, but that's my only point of reference. So say 5D Mark IV with 2470L, like that kind of thing, it should be able to handle that with ease, and it should be a lot smoother because of the bigger motors than the Weebill Lab, which I'm really looking forward to, because that jitter has been driving me crazy. Another reason I swapped from the Weebill Lab to the Weebill S is that the horizon was never quite straight on my Weebill Lab. No matter how much calibrating I did, it was always between 0.5 degree and 1 degree off. So I'd constantly have to straighten all my gimbal shots, and sometimes that looked really weird. So yeah. One great thing on the Weebill S is from the actual gimbal handle itself you can control all the functions. You don't have to go into the app for every little thing, and you can actually compensate for tilt, pitch and roll. Tilt, pitch, roll, yep. You can compensate for all those axes using the menus on the actual gimbal handle. So there's no need to go into the app if you're in the middle of a shoot, if you're out in the field somewhere and you're kind of getting a couple of shots and you notice a wonky horizon or a wonky tilt. You can compensate for that in real time and then save yourself the time in post. And that is massive. That's a massive thing for me. So overall first impressions of the Weebill S. What I wanted out of this rather than the Weebill Lab was stronger motors, so I've got better flexibility in using lenses. That has been addressed. I wanted to be able to adjust the tilt axis and the roll axis without using the app, and for it to be reliable. It looks like I've got that. I wanted more hand clearance in underslung mode. It looks like I've got that, and I wanted smoother operation, which it is reported to have. I need to go out and do a lot of testing with this. I'll do a follow-up once I've been out, done some shooting. I'll take both. Yeah, I'll actually take two gimbals out. I'll take the Weebill S and the Weebill Lab, both with the same setup, because we've got two A7 IIIs, we've got two 55 1.8s, so I'll use both of those, and we'll try and do a bit of a test in a few days, and we'll see what the result is. One last thing to mention, I've just noticed it, this cradle here is a lot thinner, lower profile than the Weebill Lab. That's because the Weebill Lab included the image transmission module, which I never used, built into this part here. But to save money on the S, they've actually taken that off, and they offer that as an extra accessory. So if you do want the image transmission module, you can buy it. It's about £100. If you need it, it's worth that. If you don't have to pay for it, because you're not forced into buying something you're not going to use. So yeah, I like how they've kind of given us the saving on that. I really appreciate that. As before, the battery compartment's under there. So that is about it. One last thing is we'll go through the accessories, because I've never bought any accessories for the gimbals before. So it will be, let's put that in a nice place, shall we? Interesting to see what you can get. So let's have a look. Number one is the Transmount image transmission transmitter. There we go. So that means you can transmit the image to your phone. So if you're using that as a monitor on the rosette mount on the side, you can use that as a monitor rather than using the on-camera thing. I kind of want that now. Second is Transmount image transmission receiver. So I don't know why you'd want a receiver on there. I'll look into that. The motion sensor remote control. That looks quite interesting. I get it. So you have a transmitter and a receiver, and you have essentially the remote control on a director's viewfinder with the transmitter, and then you have the receiver on the camera, and then it follows your motion, so you can kind of tilt and roll and do things with the gimbal from a static position. If it's on a tripod and you can't get to it, then you can do follow shots. That's really cool. I kind of want that now. I don't have any money though. Phone holder with crown gear. So that's for the side rosette to mount your phone on, so you can use that as a monitor and use some of the motion tracking stuff. Again, I kind of want that. Transmount handheld tripod. I think that's this anyway. I think that's the one you get. I think you can buy an extra one. The quick setup kit is actually really good, and I kind of want that as well. That means instead of having to screw and unscrew the tripod onto both sides, it's like a quick release. So I've used it because when I shot with Emily Lowry, Microphone Nerds, she had one and she showed me that. It was super quick. So all you do is unclick, click, and you're done in like a second. So I think I might add that on, because that had actually been, I forgot about that until now. But yeah, that would be really useful. We've got servo zoom and focus motor. I don't really use zoom lenses, so that's not going to be that useful to me. In terms of the servo focus motor, to be honest, I've got enough going on when I'm shooting with a gimbal to want to manually focus while I'm doing it. I don't think I've got that level of skill or patience, and sometimes I'm using it like outstretched on this handle, like I'm here and I'm trying to get a really high shot and then a low shot, and I haven't got my second hand to be able to focus. So I do tend to rely on autofocus pretty much all the time, unless I'm keeping pace with something. I'll knock it into manual focus. So that isn't a priority for me. And you can also get a servo focus motor, which doesn't have the zoom ring on it as well, so you can just do focus, and that's presumably cheaper. It's called the Servo Focus Motor Lite. So if you do shoot manual lenses only, and you do fancy a go at manually focusing on the gimbal, this wheel here is how you achieve that, but you need the focus motor attached as well. The camera base plate is what you get included, so I guess if you have two, no, because you just have that attached all the time. I don't know why you'd want a second one of those. Cables, you can buy spare cables. I didn't go through what cables are included, but you normally get update cable, camera connect cables. You get a good amount of camera base plate screws in there as well, 3. And you get a USB-C cable to be able to update the firmware on it, and then you get Canon, Nikon, Panasonic and Fuji cables in here, I think, to be able to connect loads of different cameras so you can control the functionality of the camera straight from the gimbal handle, which I do all the time, and it's awesome. And a second quick release base plate. Yeah, again, I think these are all spares. You can get a monopod as well, because I do like using the monopod attached to the base of the gimbal. It looks like a really nice compact one. I normally just use my Amazon Basics carbon fibre one because that's what I've got and I don't really want a second one. If I didn't, I'd probably get the official one because that looks really nice and small. And the last thing are a backpack and belt pack system. To be honest, I don't want a full backpack for the gimbal rig because I usually strap it into the water bottle holder of my Lowepro 450, or I put it in the front pocket of my Think Tank Retrospective 30. So that's it. That's everything in there. And I don't know what that is. Oh, it's an anti-mold packet. I thought that was going to be something interesting then. Rubbish. Right. So that is it. That's the unboxing of the Weebill S. Again, I appreciate I am late to the party, but hopefully that's given you a little bit of initial insight into the differences between the Weebill Lab, the Weebill S, and if it's worth upgrading as well. I will probably be doing a series of comparison reviews. I really need to get out and practice using this. I've got a wedding in 10 days, and I really want to be up to speed with this. I really want to do some really cool gimbal work there, and I want to be able to be 100% up to speed on using the new gimbal and be able to get some rock solid footage and give it a full review. So after that wedding I can tell you my full thoughts on it and how it compares to the Weebill Lab in practice. Yeah, so that is it. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I've got plenty of unboxings coming up. I think I've got some long-term reviews, I've got some initial thoughts, and I've got some ideas for a couple of series coming up. So please let me know if you like this video in the comments. Give it a like. If you consider subscribing to that went weird then. If you consider subscribing to the channel, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time, guys. See you later.